I understand that this is your first trip back to New York since COVID. What has that been like, and what has the reopening been like in China?
Well, it's been a long time. I used to, before COVID, I travel as much as like 176 days a year globally. But COVID and kind of hold everybody's back. And in China right now, I think on the ground, there are a lot of activities going on. I think the consumer is very eager to, embrace the world, embrace new life. And so they've been kind of doing all kinds of interesting activities. And so let's just see, what's going to happen in the second half of the year and for the economy. But so far, I think everybody is so eager to go back.
It's interesting when you think about globalization, the panel that you were just on, there's a lot of questions about how quickly the world may be deglobalizing in the wake of China, in the wake of geopolitical tensions, in the wake of COVID. What are you seeing in terms of technology companies in particular? Is it more competition, or are you seeing just little bites of cooperation here?
I think everybody, to be frank, a lot of my friends I talked to being investor entrepreneurs, they're all worried. And it's actually the same here with American investors and entrepreneurs as well between the two countries. But I have to say this, I think the world is truly interlinked. And, I've been talking to a think tank in America, and they actually said to me, if there is a complete delinkage between China and the US, American companies will potentially could lose half of its market cap just because the cost will go up so significantly.
Another interesting aspect of this is kind of the competition to develop technologies faster, harder, stronger than the other. And I'm wondering how you see that playing out in the world of AI. A lot of American investors here are talking about how AI will push the market so much faster. Is there anything China is doing when it comes to artificial intelligence that the US is not particularly doing?
First of all, I think if you talk to the AI community, there's certainly a community in the US, there's a community in China, there's a community in Europe. And these guys, they work in the virtual world. They actually talk to each other quite a lot. And I wouldn't say it's a competition. If it's a competition, it's a competition among different technologies or a competition among different entrepreneurs, different businesses. But I still see, I'm pretty optimistic. I think people wanted to work with each other. To give you an example, and China, for the mobile internet, that's sort of the last generation digital economy, China was the lead in the world. And I advise some of the European, very large multinational company CEOs. They actually said to me, the consumer experience on the digital side in China was the best for all their regions. US was number 2, and Europe was number 3. So, and China had a lot of talents, so many engineers, and they're battle tested. They work on very large scale consumer operations. So I actually see a lot of interesting innovations going to come out of it. By the way, when we think about the internet, how many of us remember who actually invented the internet? How many of us, kind of remembered who invented the refrigerator? But it is the Amazon the world, it's Coca-Cola the world benefited from this great invention. So the bottom line is, I think great entrepreneurs, when they have this kind of new technology wave, they're going to leverage it to create something very exciting for consumer or businesses.
Patrick, thank you for your time here on Bloomberg Technology. There is a debate about US domiciled VCs putting money into Chinese technology companies. What are you seeing in terms of the LP appetite? US institutional money and LPs wanting to invest in China technology companies?
I think for right now, I feel like everybody kind of put it on hold because of geopolitical concerns. As I said, listen, this is the first trip I did to America since COVID. I think many of the LPs in America, many of the company CEOs in America haven't traveled to China. And they used to travel to China like once a quarter, but they haven't been back since COVID. Just to give you a number, the flights between US and China today, in Q1, it was only 5% that capacity prior to COVID. So there's a lack of interactions, lack of communication. So people kind of tend to think everything in a very abstract way when you actually don't meet, don't talk.
When you were at Wellington, you held some of the top China tech names as an institutional investor. How attractive right now are the US ADRs for some of these China tech names? You know, there's been a lot of back and forth on the listing, delisting, but they are still giants of technology globally.
Yes, you know, I think they are still working very hard. And by the way, and China or these companies for the last 20 years, they have accumulated a lot of know-hows. They have a world-class engineering force working there. And, you know, I think the world, to be honest, is a little sad because of geopolitics, people don't talk to each other. But I feel these companies, they're doing real work. And they're going to come up with real and exciting products, especially riding on this next wave of AI. And again, I think on the application side, I think the Chinese companies potentially can do really, really well.
For a couple of months there were fears there from U.S. investors investing in Chinese tech giants because of crackdowns, regulatory crackdowns. How much is that a concern for you as a local investor?
So I think you know, we're venture capital investors, so we have to think everything a little bit longer term. And we look at the technology, how the company is sort of organized. We compare them to the best companies in the world, the companies in Silicon Valley. We actually see some of the companies, they're really, really competitive. And so it's investors' job to help them to bridge the gap and help them actually even grow globally.